In December 2020, Kevin Owens became a huge thorn in Roman Reigns' side. After persevering through multiple attacks at the hands of Roman and Jey leading up to their title match, Kevin Owens gave Roman all he could handle at TLC. Even though the championship was literally on the tip of KO's fingers, he could not overcome 2 against 1, and Roman retained in an excellent TLC match. What will the fallout of their epic TLC encounter be? It's time to rewind the Bloodline. If you are new to the channel, make sure you drop a subscribe and like and comment. Let us know what you thought of TLC 2020 because we thought it was excellent. Getting into that match, even though KO tried to take Jey out by Pillmanizing his ankle, which Mongoose had plenty of issue with last show, Jey managed to be enough of a factor to cost KO the championship. A real heady play by WWE here, though, as they had the perfect logical booking for a cage match, and they booked the match for Christmas Day SmackDown, which had an NFL lead-in. So Goose, kick us off with this Christmas edition 2020 of SmackDown.
Yeah, so we begin with the thunder and the lightning striking among Christmas trees. The show begins, and it is a Merry Christmas indeed because a steel cage is set up here.
I loved the Christmas trees. How did they not catch on fire? The pyro catches Undertaker on fire, caught Jeff Hardy on fire. How did these Christmas trees survive?
Direct energy weapons.
That's
the only logical answer. So Michael Cole tells us that we are kicking off this very special Christmas edition of SmackDown in a steel cage where the Universal Championship will be defended. Roman is out first. He's flanked by Paul Heyman, and Paul is just wearing the stinkiest stink face you've ever seen. Cole runs us down Roman's lineage as Roman makes his way to the ring, and Graves is putting Roman over as being the man that's on the top of the mountain.
And Cole tells us that the rules are you can pin your opponent, you can make him submit, or you can escape either over the top of the cage or through the cage door, but both feet must hit the floor. Big emphasis on that.
That's a common Roman theme.
Yes. Yes. Graves reminds us of the contest that the two had at TLC, and Cole says that Roman survived the match, and KO would say, if not for Jey Uso, he would have won. So again, the logic to move to a cage really actually makes a lot of sense here, and the announcers are doing a really great job of laying out that story for us.
Yeah, they are. And KO's out second. Cole's putting over this performance at TLC. And then he says he might look rough around the edges, but he has more toughness, more grit than anyone. And then Graves starts burying Owens' appearance too. And he says,
she might look rough around the edges, but he has more tough.
And all I could think of is, man, the Vince is strong right here.
Oh, that's such a Vince line if I've ever heard one. So the two start off trading blows. Roman gets the heat early, and he gets the first near fall after a big boot. Graves notes that Roman is trying to reestablish himself tonight as Roman throws KO into the steel twice, and he hits another Samoan drop for a near fall. KO hits a DDT, and he starts his comeback with some strikes, throwing Roman into the cage, and then a boot and a senton.
Yeah, man, gotta love the KO comeback. So he's doing a great job selling everything here while he's doing it, because these two were just in a war 5 days earlier. He hits a spot and he sells it because it still hurts, right? Good stuff. So KO stays on the offense. He's hitting Roman with strikes in the corner, and then he hits a cannonball. After Roman kicks out at 2, Paul just gives the deepest exhale on the outside. KO goes for a pop-up powerbomb, and Roman counters it into a Rough Rider for a near fall here.
That Rough Rider spot, we had that a few weeks ago with Roman. I believe it was at the Survivor Series match with Drew McIntyre, and it didn't pan out the way that it did here, but this one looked much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, this was much more crisp. We then get some back and forth in the corner. KO then hits a frog splash for another near fall, and we cut to commercial.
So we come back from the break, and Roman gets a near fall after a sit-out powerbomb. KO starts another comeback. He hits Roman with a pop-up powerbomb for 2, and Paul just buries his head again in his hands on the outside. You just have to love the story that Heyman tells on the outside during these matches. Without Heyman, I don't think that all of this just gets over as much as what it does.
Paul Heyman is this generation's Bobby Heenan. He's the best non-wrestler wrestling guy in the business, dude. He's great.
Stumbling around, he grabs Roman. Roman cuts him off, driving him into the corner. Roman has Owens perched in the corner, and KO is able to reverse it into a fisherman buster from the middle rope. We just had this brutal match 5 days ago, and we're still pulling out these big spots here.
And incredible that we had the last one, he threw Roman into the chair on that spot.
Right.
And this time we get it from the second rope. So Roman's bumping for this fella. Yeah. So KO measures up Roman. He hits the kick, goes for a stunner. Roman counters it into a Superman punch, and Owens kicks out at 2. And then after that kick out, the switch flips on Roman. We've talked about it before, and here it was again. He starts talking. KO hits him with a shot, and then he just goes off. He ragdolls KO into the cage twice, and then he starts unloading on him with rights. He's now psyched all the way up, and then he locks in a guillotine while KO's trapped between the ropes and the cage, and KO counters it by pulling Roman's throat down into the top rope.
This was so clever and a very interesting way to have somebody be able to get out of the choke for the first time, because anytime Roman's locked this choke in, it's been game over. It's how Kevin Owens lost the match 5 days prior. So Roman is now seething. He gets up, attacks for a spear. KO cuts him off with a kick. He hits a stunner, and Roman kicks out at 2.99.
Yeah, great near fall.
Yes, so that takes us to commercial. We come back, and KO is trying to escape from the cage, and Roman is trying to pull him down. KO knocks him off. KO gets a leg out, and Roman Spider-Man's his way up the cage. He grabs KO, and he pulls him back in.
Yeah, dude, he it was very nimble getting up that fence. That was excellent. So we had this awesome battle on the top rope. KO hits a super kick while tight roping on the top. He then goes for a swanton, and Roman gets the knees up. Roman then hits a spear. You think it's curtains, and KO kicks out at 2. So now Roman's the one that's really selling big time with his face. Basically, like, this dude's still here. Like, what's it going to take to put this guy away?
Yes, and now the ref opens the door. Roman goes to walk out, and KO grabs his foot. Roman smiles, looks down at KO. He grabs him. He starts smack talking him again, and KO pulls the door into Roman. Now he's just machine gunning Roman's head into the steel, and Roman is now down and out. So KO goes to walk out, but out of nowhere, Jey cuts him off by slamming the door.
This is where I say, so Jay's ankle, I suppose, is now magically recovered here because he just hop, skipped, and jumped his way right down to there. KO disposes of Jey, though, but in doing so, it gives Roman enough time to recover. And we are now into that big move section of the match. KO goes for a pop-up power bomb. Roman counters with a Superman punch. Roman goes for a spear. KO steps aside. Roman then goes shoulder first into the cage, and KO nails Roman with a stunner.
KO is crawling towards the door. Jey comes from the outside. He grabs Owens' wrists, and he handcuffs KO to the cage. KO is literally 3/4 of his body out of the cage, but his feet are dangling like second graders.
Like when the chair's too big. You know what I'm saying? That's literally what I saw there.
And it just goes back to what Michael Cole said at the beginning of this match, selling that both feet have to touch the ground. And Roman wakes up, smiles. He looks at how Owens is struggling. He then very deliberately walks out the door, looks at KO. KO says that Roman should be ashamed, and literally walks as slow as possible down those steps, and he gets the win as both feet touch the ground.
Dude, Paul then slides in like Farnsworth Bentley here with the title. This was incredible. This was as good as the match itself.
He literally just slid right in there. It was so perfect. That was my favorite part of the match, I feel like.
On a knee. He did it on a knee. It was like his knee had a skateboard on the bottom of it.
Yeah, he had a Healy for a knee pad. Oh, it was so good. So now Roman is sitting on the step mocking KO because KO cannot get any closer to him because he's handcuffed to the cage. And KO is as big, ugly knot on his forehead from the cage. Graves tells us that it could be argued for a second time this week that KO outfought Roman, but Roman Reigns outthought KO. And that was a great line, and I loved that from Graves here.
Yeah, that was excellent commentary. I couldn't have thought of something that clever. So good on him for that. So we get the still to come graphic. We have Sammy versus Big E in a lumberjack match. And then we also have Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso coming up. Later in the show, Charlotte pins Bianca to retain the women's tag titles in an elimination match. And then Sammy gets geeked out by the Street Profits. After that happens, Daniel Bryan's music hits.
And he's leading the yes chants to all of the screens, the millions and millions of screens, as Jey jumps him from behind and he just throws him into the presents and the Christmas trees all around the set. He starts wailing on him. The geeks come out to pull him off. Jey runs through them. He lands boots to DB and he slams him into the runway.
Yeah, Jay's completely no selling the ankle here again. I'm going to let this go, I promise. But all I thought here was maybe he went and got his blood spun in Germany or something in the last 5 days in order for him to have this magical recovery here. So we cut to commercial and Daniel Bryan's selling on the outside as Jay's waiting in the ring. Daniel Bryan struggles his way in and he tells the ref to ring the bell. Jay starts off hot here. Bryan goes to the outside. Jay hits him with a dive, and then he throws him into the steps once and then a second time. So he's firmly in control.
And he rolls in DB screaming, and Cole reminds us that Jay sent Bryan to the hospital a month ago. And Bryan starts his comeback with some chops and strikes. He backflips over the top turnbuckle as Jay hits the turnbuckle chest first, but Jay cuts off DB with a Samoan drop.
Jay then hits a scoop slam, runs the rope. He goes for some kind of diving headbutt, but misses and sells his nose. We can't sell his ankle, but he can sell his nose. Bryan is now going for the Psycho knee or running drop kick, something to that effect. Jay ducks out, and he actually, for once, hits Daniel Bryan with the running hip attack in the corner. So we did get a payoff to that spot. Jay then nails Bryan with the boot, and I think that it's the same foot that he hurt, that he's kicking him with, but whatever. He gets dumped outside, and when that happens, now he's going to sell the ankle.
And these announcers really could help us out by saying that the ankle was literally destroyed by KO Sunday, but they didn't do that here. So,
and I guess maybe the reason would be that he wasn't selling it. Maybe we shouldn't either.
Yeah,
but it would have, for the sake of storyline continuity, it would have really helped to say, I don't know if you want to advertise that your guy's getting pain shots or whatever in the back, but give me something, man.
So Bryan goes for a dive. Jay ducks out and Bryan hits the announce table. They go inside. Jay immediately climbs to the top and Bryan ducks out and hits a reverse suplex from the top as we cut to commercial.
And we come back and Bryan's now firmly in control. He's working Jay's ankle. He hits a running boot into the corner and then another to Jay's leg. So I do like that we're attacking a body part here. Bryan then perches Jay up on the top, climbs up, and hits a top rope Hurricane Rana for 2.
Bryan hits the yes kicks, sets up for the Psycho knee, and Jay cuts him off with a pair of super kicks. Jay hits the Uso splash, sells the ankle, so he doesn't get the cover right away, but Bryan is able to kick out at 2. Jay goes up again, he jumps for the splash, and this time, Bryan gets the knees up and counters into a label lock. Jay blocks it, but Bryan twists him into a half crab, and Jay gets to the ropes to break the hold.
The two are then trading blows in the mount and the ground and pound. Jay finally gets control. He hits Bryan with 2 headbutts, and now Bryan is selling like he's knocked out. Of course, the referees in this company don't care if you're unconscious, so they just let it go. And Jay is measuring Bryan. Daniel Bryan now regains consciousness. He fires up. He ducks out of a super kick, and then he finally hits the Psycho knee for the pin. This was really good, but I was so irritated by Jay's leg that I couldn't enjoy it.
I just need to point this out here, and it was at this moment where I realized that Jey Uso was Solo Sikoa years before Solo Sikoa was even brought out to the main roster.
And you know what? That's a great point, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like that triggered something in me. Mm-hmm. I've complained about Solo Sikoa booking for 2 years now. Yeah. And you know what this is? This is that old WWE trope that they put themselves into where if it works for one guy, it'll work for the next. Mm-hmm. It worked for Jay, and unfortunately, I don't think it worked the same for Solo.
I don't have a problem with Solo as much as some of the other people do, but I can see where you would be angry about it. Like, I see where it's irritating for fans.
I think the big thing here is that Jay's doing all of this losing, and it's because we have an eminent face turn.
Mhm.
And I don't see a universe where Solo Sikoa is going to be cheered as a babyface right now. So it makes him look more like a geek because he just keeps losing, and I don't see redemption on the other side.
I don't think redemption would be as sweet for Solo as it was for Jay, because Solo's just done so many things and people have really hated Solo. And I don't think people ever really wanted to hate Jay.
Right,
So that's
right.
where the
That's a
problem
good call.
After the match, Kayla is interviewing Daniel Bryan. He says that he has new goals, things he wants to achieve. And his new goal, the one thing he's never done, is to win the Royal Rumble. And he declares his entry for the 2021 Royal Rumble match.
Yes, Sammy comes in to complain about everything that's happened to him. He claims that Daniel Bryan is stooge to management, caused all this heartache to Sammy, and that karma's coming for Daniel Bryan soon. And I say, soon, Sammy, soon. Not karma, but justice.
Yeah.
And this show actually closes with Big E beating Sammy for the Intercontinental title. So it was a really cool finish to the show here. Feel good moment on Christmas.
Yes. And before we move on to the next week, how about we take a little stop at Dirt Sheet Beach?
Yeah, so this SmackDown show was coming off of the NFL lead-in, like you said earlier. This show did 3.3 million viewers and a
Wow.
0.96 in the 18 to 49 demo.
Whoa.
Yes, it's a monster number. This was the highest viewers per show, which was 1.5 per home, that SmackDown has done since it's been on Fox the entire time. And the best key demo rating, which was 1.249 million just in 18 to 49 since the show debuted on the network. And remember, that show featured The Rock and had a title match on it.
Yeah, I remember that. And that's wild. I did not know that they had that big of a number on this SmackDown.
Well, and the reason for it is because, they've always got to bring the thunder. Yeah. He says that this is basically based off of the strength of the lead-in. The NFL game right before it did 20,111,000 viewers and 6.8 million in 18 to 49. So the WWE was brilliant in putting their best possible match in front of the biggest possible audience. But that audience number is skewed because 20 million people had the TV sets on just as the show was kicking off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So go ahead, brother. Why don't you kick us off with the first SmackDown of 2021 now?
Yes. So we are at the January 1, 2021 SmackDown. And we open with the last Friday montage. And then we wind it back to the TLC match with Roman winning after a low blow. And then the two beating on KO. We get the match highlights with Cole's voiceover saying the reason for the stipulation. We get the cuts of KO's big moves, Jay showing up, KO hitting the stunner, and then getting handcuffed to the cage. And we close with Roman and Jay dapping up as KO is flipping out.
We get into the actual show. Michael Cole greets us with, "Welcome to the first SmackDown of 2021. We then start the show with the man who is still the Universal Champion after surviving the steel cage. Roman comes out flanked by Paul and Jay. And after the pyro, Cole puts over KO's efforts in defeat. And props to the dude here on the screen when the Ding Dong Bailey shirt with a huge thumbs down as this is going on. What a gem on hard cam.
Oh, I love that. I love the Ding Dong Hello shirts. Roman starts by saying, as the face of WWE, let me start by saying,
Happy New Year.
So we get a nice guy Roman here. I kind of like
Love
that.
Love it.
Roman says that 2020's been rough. It was a tough year, but
when you're the head of the table,
the tribal chief, you make it work. And he says, Oos,
why you think I wear the gold glove?
Because everything I touch turns to greatness.
Man, we love that gold gauntlet too.
Oh, I love that thing.
So he says,
look at who I surround myself with.
Take Paul, special counsel to the tribal chief, discarded, thrown out into the deep end.
I saved him.
And then he calls Paul the most genuine, honest man he's ever done business with.
I love that, but I thought that was a nice tie-in to the mission statement whenever Paul was saying that Roman plucked him out of the ocean of obscurity. I love that we're keeping continuity here.
Yeah, without question. And I love the little insider wink and nod to saying how honest of a businessman Paul is, because he is a noted slime ball. You know what I'm saying? So that was good stuff. So then Roman continues.
I'm not taking my cousin.
He's a prime example of what I can do. What did I say? All you got to do is listen to me, understand how my brain works, why I got to do what I got to do. And what happened? It's
In the best year of your career as a
barn burner match after barn burner match. This man can't miss now.
he acknowledged me as his tribal chief.
And Roman says he could see it. He always knew since day one. He always knew he was main event Uso.
That's why I love you.
As he's putting Jey over, KO's music hits. Roman immediately says,
No, turn his music off.
"No one wants to hear you." He then calls KO a roach that won't go away. He says KO experienced the
island of relevancy.
and is nothing more than a social media sweetheart for a few weeks. And Roman was generous enough to give
you a giant payday.
He hopes KO gave his kids and his wife a good Christmas. But there's nothing left. Beat it. Get out of here. It's not about you, KO.
This is Jay's time.
It's about family. So get out of here. It's Jay's time and quit being selfish.
KO responds, me standing here?
It's embarrassing to you, Roman.
It should be, because me standing here means
Your family failed.
And then he goes on, what did you try to do these last few weeks? They tried to take KO's career, and what did they have to do?
They dragged me off of
ladders, had to handcuff him to the cage so Roman could keep his title. And to KO, it's clear.
Big dog is long gone.
And he's been replaced by a giant shh.
Owens being a smart babyface here is actually great. I love that he's not just a dumb babyface. He's actually making sense of everything that he's saying here.
Yeah, there's method to his madness, which makes sense for why he won't just go away. I like it.
So KO says,
You don't want nothing to do with me.
tonight, that's fine. It's about Jey. He's here to fight. Not you, Roman, but Jey. Because for everything they've done to him in the last month, Jey
You will pay.
and Roman, when I'm done with your cousin, your family will have nothing left to celebrate.
Good stuff, man. I do like how we pivoted right over to Jey.
Yeah.
So Big E comes out to face King Corbin, and this is particularly sad because Big E's wearing the Brody armband. So RIP to Mr. Brody Lee. He passed on 12/26/2020. There's a great write-up in The Observer about him from that week. And this brought back memories for me, man, of how awesome that AEW tribute show was for him. Like, that is an all-time show. And seeing that one, man, that got me a little bit because that was an awesome. He was awesome in the ring. He was an awesome character. And the tribute stuff to him was really touching. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So after Big E and Apollo Crews beat Sami Zayn and King Corbin in an impromptu tag match, Kevin Owens finds Adam Pearce in the back.
KO says that he's sure Adam has heard he wants to fight Jey, so just come on and make the match so everything is official. And Pearce says,
Here, what do you want me to do?
I'm just taking orders. I've got Roman, I've got Heyman, and KO takes issue with it because
This is not the Adam Pearce I've known for 15 years.
who made all the towns with him.
I need this to happen.
Pearce says he can't.
And you know why I can't do it.
Yeah, Pearce offers KO a match against anyone on the roster except Jey. So KO says,
Thank you. I'll take Roman Reigns.
So Pearce gets flustered, and KO tells him that
Everybody watching tonight wants to see me beat Jey Uso.
Pearce finally capitulates, tells Kevin Owens that he is the match with Jey, and Pearce gives the really hard exhale as we cut to commercial. After Bayley and Carmella beat Bianca and Sasha, we come back to Roman, Jey, and the Wise Man all in the back looking at the monitor.
And Roman is hot.
After everything I've done for this company,
Everything that I do, somebody still actually made this match, and that somebody doesn't appreciate me. He extends his hand. Paul hands him the belt, and Roman tells Jey to find out who did it.
who doesn't appreciate me?
And they stare at the monitor with the match graphic for Jey and KO as we cut to a Street Profits entrance.
And we move on. After Daniel Bryan and Otis beat Cesaro and Nakamura, with DB and Cesaro still wearing the Brody bands, we cut to Roman sitting in the leather chair with the Godfather pose, and Paul comes up behind him and says,
It was Adam Pearce.
Roman then gives a scowl and says,
He just doesn't get it, does he?
They're trying to take everything that we work for. And he turns to Jey and says,
Don't let him.
show them why your main event Uso. Jey gives a yeet, daps up Roman, and KO's music hits.
Match gets started and they start off with brawling. KO has control early and like literally just this is just every Jey Uso match. He just gets the crap kicked out of him to start. He powders and KO follows him to the outside, hits him with a clothesline and a senton, and rolls him back in to give him another senton for a 2 count. KO starts to work Jey's ankle, and thankfully Corey mentions that it was initially injured at TLC. We finally get that. So Owens works over the ankle and leg for a few minutes, telling Jey that the beating isn't Jey's fault, telling Jey to blame Roman.
And what I loved about this is that this is the second time that Jey was put in this position, and the first time was by Roman.
Yeah.
He was getting beat down a month and a half ago saying, this is your fault, you're making me do this. And now here's KO beating him down saying, it's not your fault, he's making me do this. And it's just poor Jey taking the beatings the whole time. So Jey starts to fire up a little. KO goes for a stunner. Jey cuts him off with a super kick, and KO falls out of the ring. Jey, for some reason, tries to run around and jump over the steps to hit a dive on a KO. KO then gives him the Shelton Benjamin super kick and dumps Jey over the announce table and calls out Roman as we head to the break.
We come back. The two are fighting on the top rope. KO falls off. Jey gives an Uso splash. KO rolls out, and Jey catches himself by landing on his feet, which is a bad idea because literally one of those legs is hurt. So KO gets up, hits Jey with a stunner, and he gets the pin. KO is just screaming.
Where are you, Roman?
As he proceeds to boot Jey in the leg and give him another stunner.
Graves notes that Roman is smart. He won't be baited. So KO goes out, says into Graves' headset,
Come take care of your family, bitch.
KO then grabs a set of handcuffs. He handcuffs Jey to the ropes, nails Jey with the super kick, and then stomps a mud hole into Jey's injured leg. Roman still won't show, so KO grabs the keys to the cuffs from his knee pad and then puts the cuff on Jey's other wrist and says that
I'll come to you.
He then ragdolls Jey all over the place, up the ramp, into the screens, and then lays Jey out on the table. He climbs up to give him a splash through the table at the video boards, and Roman comes out of nowhere. Roman and KO are now crowd fighting in the screens, which this is really something because it's kind of cool. You always see the screens in this one area, and now you're seeing them up close and personal.
and we haven't had crowd brawling since we haven't had crowds. Like
Right.
this is as close as we've got to it.
Jey recovers, joins Roman, and handcuffed, and apparently no longer injured again. He grabs chairs for he and Roman, and the two just start absolutely battering Owens with chair shots, and Roman screams at KO, "You should have just left. What did I tell you?"
Jey then wraps the cuffs chain around Owens' neck as Roman's landing more shots. The two continue the beating, and Roman takes KO's face and just rams it into the screen over and over again. Roman then grabs Kevin Owens, and he just throws him off of that stage like he was a sack of laundry.
Oh my God, no!
Through at the same table that KO had laid Jey out on, and we fade out with Roman looking down at the battered and beaten Kevin Owens.
That was an insane spot. I loved it. This was incredible.
And a great angle to keep the thing going. You know, I mean, at this point in time, I can see the critique and criticism of why are we still doing it? But watching these segments in a vacuum, it's excellent. It really is, dude. Speaking of excellent, why don't you take us to what you have on your island of relevancy this week?
I have to put the cage match on the island of relevancy because this cage match actually made sense, and they kind of teased you beforehand of kind of how things were going to play out with saying that both feet have to touch. I just loved it. I thought it was great.
And on free TV.
Right. Free TV cage match.
Always great. Yeah, always great to get a pay-per-view quality match on free TV. Loved it, dude.
All right, Goose, why don't you tell us what you are tossing into the ocean of obscurity?
Unfortunately, I threw it in last week and it has washed back ashore. So now I am going to chuck this like Roman did KO off of that platform through that table. I am throwing Jey's ankle into the ocean of obscurity forever and ever. I promise I will never bring it back up again. But for all of the malarkey that went on 5 days after TLC, I still can't let it go.
I know that you were going to be mad about it, and you did not disappoint. So that is part 13 of the Bloodline Rewind. That is the fallout of TLC 2020. We are coming back next week with part 14, and it is going to be a jam-packed show. We are covering the 3 SmackDowns, the go-homes for Royal Rumble 2020, and I cannot wait to talk about them. There is so much going on here now as we transition out of TLC, and we're fully into Rumble season, which only puts us into WrestleMania season. And I cannot wait until we get to WrestleMania season.
Yes, sir.
Make sure if you are not subscribed that you subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support. Make sure you like and comment if you liked this cage match as much as we did. For that, I'm Johnny Bake Show.
I'm Teddy Mongoose.
And we just called it in the ring.